Good afternoon. Welcome to the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. That is really right now post lunchtime, East Coast time. My day got carried away and I was helping some people. And sometimes you do things you really enjoy. And I got to fix my shirt. There we go. I think something like that. And you just don't want to give it up a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I got to do a show. I got to get on. And I had done this morning, which I want to talk about why, if you want to talk about risk as a team, why it's important not to skip the events that are in Scrum and how they interrelate to what happens and how you use them to leverage to help your team discuss risks. And the reason why it came up is I was doing a retro and I was just like, oh, let's just try the out-of-the-box retro that was listed. And one of the items that had on the picture was risks, talking about risks. So that triggered the whole risk thing and how every event is important. So this is the 5 a.m. Mester Scrum Show. I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master and Agile Coach. And here we talk about Scrum and Agile in a very practical and tactical way. So you can get work to your customer without get value to your customer. It's not necessarily work, but the value that they need without working extra hard and having a little fun along the way. Speaking of fun, I brought in a almond cake to the team the other day for as part of sprint planning, just to do something different, have a little fun, just different little things, nothing too crazy, but just trying to add that because it's one of the events where everyone gets together at the same time in the office and meet in person. So I try to make it a little more special, right? Anyway, it was fun. First time I ever made an almond cake. I had fun. I think I talked about it yesterday before I went on the show and I showed the picture of the cake. The almond cake is gone. They all ate it. So apparently I got baking talents that I never knew. Anyway, let's talk about risk. We go right from baking a cake to risk. Well, there was a lot of risk associated with baking that cake. I will tell you that right now. Anyway, so in that retro, they had a picture of risk as one of the discussion elements. And what I wanted to share with you today is something a lot of people don't understand, or Scrum Masters let happen, or teams don't happen, where they say we don't need to do a Scrum event. Oh, do we need to do retro? Do we need to do the review? Do we need to do sprint planning? Right? We don't need all that stuff. And I'll be honest with you, it's funny. That's when people start talking about Kanban. Well, we don't have to do all that. We just do Kanban. We don't have to do any of these events. Well, you still got to do the stuff that's in the event, however you do it. But what's nice and beautiful about Scrum is it has distinct events to help you focus on those topics as you go. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So let's talk about this. I drew this on the board. A little relationship. We have our sprint review, which is really the last event of the sprint events, right? Well, it's not the last. Actually, the retro is the last. Second to last. This is where you actually meet with your customer. Now, one of the things everyone thinks to do is just talk about what we built in the sprint, and that's it. But one of the things you should cover is what future look like. Since you got your customer there, what are we going to be doing in the near future? What does it look like over the horizon? Get a little feedback while you have your stakeholders on. Is this future planning, next couple sprints, next 3 or 4 sprints, appropriate? Or if you do PI planning and you get the rest of your PI, you can talk about, well, this is what we're doing in the rest of the PI. And as you get closer to the end, you can talk about the next PI, right? So your sprint review, you kind of look at what's the future, right? What's the future coming out? What's the future stories? What's the future epics? What are we going to deliver? Then after you have the review, right, you hold your sprint retrospective. And in there you talk about what went well in the sprint. And in this case, there was a retrospective that talked about risks, right? So what you go off of the future outlook then goes and helps you lead into your risk discussion, right? So if you're facilitating the discussion and the flow, after you talk about the sprint and how it went, you talk about one of the topics, risks. You might want to bring, based on conversations during the review, the future looking items as a risk item and have a discussion on specific items in your future look that came up in the sprint review during the retro. Now, this is why retro should really be more than an hour long, because or whatever. You talk about your overall sprint and things you have, but then you might want to focus on a topic that came out of the future looking in the sprint review that was brought up and have a risk focused discussion. What are the risks? What do we need to do? How are we planning this? Where's this coming through? What are the big items that are coming up that could be risky? What do we need to think about? Now you had that retro and you talked about the risks and what's there. Then when you do sprint planning, right, or even the retro, you might decide that, hey, maybe we do a couple spikes here to minimize the risk because we have never done this before. It's a new system. Maybe you're just doing cloud technology, doing another system that's out there. Maybe you're doing more Oracle. Who knows what it is that you want to incorporate? So there's risks associated. So you might identify some spikes during that retro and the risk to help mitigate the risk to better understand your risk. Then it goes into sprint planning, which is your next step for the new sprint. You identify spikes and risk reduction. So in the sprint planning, you're taking those spikes, the things that you talked about in the retro, the future look, how you might put them into your sprint planning. As you can see, these all tie into risk analysis, risk mitigation, risk management. I can't talk, right? Risk management. But you need all these events to get there. Now, do you have to have these events? No, you can have this all in one discussion. But if you're in there and you get your stakeholders aren't going to want to be in especially here and here, and 20 different events for every, or 20 different meetings for every issue at hand. You got their attention. Use it in that group and cover a couple different issues. Again, in the sprint planning, you got their attention and the stakeholders are there. Use it to get their attention to talk about things and what your plan is as a team. We're going to do a little spike here. We're going to minimize the risk to make sure we can meet your date that you're envisioning based on what this maybe you say, based on the outcome of the spike, we will let you know how we feel comfortable with delivering your future items, your future look. And then we can talk about when you want to establish a delivery date for that future, like what looks in the realm of possibility of actually happening. So I wanted to share this with you because it takes care of a couple of different things. One, why you should not eliminate an event from your team because, we don't need to do retro, or we don't really need to do a sprint review. Why do we do it? Well, because you want to look at the future during that sprint review, because you have business people and say, this is what we see coming over the horizon for the team. Are you in agreement with that horizon? Do we need to modify that horizon? That's that feedback loop, right? That you keep adjusting every sprint, as well as maybe in a quarterly event or a PI thing if you're doing safe. And then again, here at sprint planning in the retro, because you want to go down a little deeper in the retro and break down the risks associated with those future items, right? And that's why your retro might be bigger than a half hour or bigger than an hour, depending how long the sprint and how much work you got to do and how big this risk is and things like that. You might just have a whole risk meeting related to the one topic. You could do it right after the retro. It's a perfect spot. And then again, planning. So that's why you don't want to get rid of any events in the system. And that's why you want to use them appropriately. And don't forget your risk. Don't forget your future. Talk about the futures in retro in the review so that you can talk about the risks in the retro, so that you can put spikes and issues you want to do to mitigate those risks in your sprint planning. So there you have it. There's 3 out of them. The only one I didn't talk about is daily Scrum, which is what it is, the daily Scrum. Well, how to use those events to cover that stuff. And it's, since today is Thursday, the 3 R's, where we talk about requirements, reviews, and retros. I covered all 3. Just see, look at that. And I added another R, risks, right? We got 4 R's. Yeah. 4 R's today. Should call 4R Thursday? No, it's okay. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I wanted to get to that. I apologize for not doing a show this morning. I do it live for a reason. It makes my life easier for capturing this information and sharing it to the world. But a lot of things came up and got interested in helping and discussion with people. And sometimes the one-on-ones are something I really want to do and I enjoy. So with that, I want to thank you all. You have a great afternoon. We will see you tomorrow on Fun Friday. We'll have a fortune cookie. We'll talk about some fun stuff. And we'll have a good old time. So I hope to see you tomorrow. Wish you the best. Happy scrumming. Take care, everyone. And see ya.